Sometimes when I get ready to put a sermon together, there's kind of this arc and it moves kind of smoothly. The readings that we have today and the news of the last couple of weeks have caused my sermon to be a little disjointed. So you're going to get a couple of vignettes on different thoughts that I had as I reflected on the readings. And before I even get to that, I wanted to mention about the adult forum today. It's going to start at 9:45 in the chapel, and if you're in here with little ones for Sunday school opening, you can find us on the way. Barge in, we love it. But what we're going to do is we're going to have a tour of the improvements that we've made over the last 3 years with the Generations of Grace capital campaign that's coming to an end. We'll have some pictures to show on our new TVs and get a chance to see all of the work that's been done on campus and at our other properties, the parsonage where I live, for instance. We won't all go over there this morning, but we'll see pictures. So at any rate, join us over there after this service. There's a lot going on in these readings. Normally we chuck James aside as good Lutherans and kind of move on to the next book, but I want to park with James a little bit. As most all of you know, I went to California Lutheran University down in Thousand Oaks, kind of between Santa Barbara and Los Angeles. Cal Lutheran is one of about 25 ELCA Lutheran colleges across the United States. St. Olaf is probably our most famous of schools, but there are many others. Our daughter attends Gustavus Adolphus, a proud Swedish heritage Lutheran college in Minnesota. But in Springfield, Ohio, let me say that again. In Springfield, Ohio, is a proud Lutheran college of German background called Wittenberg. Wittenberg has canceled all programming this weekend because of violent threats against the campus. Lies have knowingly been told about entire communities of people, which has encouraged other people to threaten bombings, to threaten mass casualty events. That is sin. I don't normally speak that plainly, but just in case you thought I was okay with it, it is sin. It is sin. There are people living in fear in that community because of lies that are knowingly told lies that not just are known to be untrue, but are known to generate violence towards people. It is sin. In the United States, we have a history where businesses might have had signs at various times in our past that would say, Irish need not apply. For those of us who have lived in the United States for many generations, particularly Lutheran Christians, many of German background, particularly in the early 1900s during the First World War. Language swept aside, American flags put in the front of worship spaces because of fear of neighbor and the persecution that came from it in this country. We have many brilliant ideals as a people, but our history is full of times where we have fallen short and need to remind ourselves to move closer towards those ideals. The text today from James touches on this in kind of a curious way. It touches on the issue of the tongue specifically, and how it is such a small part of our body, and yet is almost always the whole problem, right? How often have we said something because we were tired or hungry, hangry as we might call it? Things aren't going the way we want, and we say something that we go home and say, oh, I wish I had not said that. That was not kind. That was not the best of me to offer. It's a struggle. In the back of the hymnal, as we were just looking at, Luther says that we're called not to bear false witness against our neighbor, which then trips us to the gospel story, right? Well, then who is my neighbor? And we get the story of the Good Samaritan. But Luther, in his explanation of the commandments which are a lot of thou shalt nots, right? Don't kill anybody. We go to bed at night thinking, hey, I didn't kill anybody today. It's been a good day. But Luther would say, yeah. But before you get too excited, here's what you should affirmatively be doing. And in regards to the catechism on the 8th commandment, as I was sharing with the kids, Luther has this phrase that is very difficult because we can be not our best selves at times. Others can be not their best selves at times. But it says not only are we to not bear false witness, but we are to put the kindest construction on our neighbor's actions and words. You mean I can't just assume that because they're a bad person, if I hear something bad about them, it must be true? No, that's not how it works. It turns out the world is not so much filled with good and bad people as it is filled with people. And as people, we have good days, we have bad days, we have scars that we bring with us through our life that cause us to act in certain ways at certain times. Luther challenges us to be better people in that regard towards our neighbors. Vignette number 1. The last piece I wanted to mention is in regards to the gospel text. This is an intense passage here. Peter finally gets it right, which is not the way Peter usually rolls. But who do you say that I am? And Peter says, you are the Messiah. Now, the Messiah would have been a kind of an understood thing. Like everybody would go, oh, yeah, the Messiah. I think in American history, kind of a George Washington kind of figure, if he was a clergy person as well, would be kind of sorta the Messiah idea. A hero, somebody that was gonna throw the Romans out. But Jesus says, actually, it's gonna be really hard. It's gonna be painful. And in fact, will lead to a cross. And Peter is thinking, this doesn't sound anywhere near as fun as I was imagining. And Jesus is just getting under his skin. And Peter, you have to watch the physical cues that we get in this text. Peter takes Jesus aside and rebukes him. Rebuke is a strong word in English or in any other language. It's the same word that Jesus often uses in regards to unclean spirits being cast out, or the storm is rebuked and a calm comes. Who does Peter think that he is to rebuke the rabbi? Jesus is not impressed, turns away from Peter, back towards everyone else. Get behind me, Satan. Oh, that's heavy. But the piece I want you to linger with is what comes up towards the very end, when we are called to carry our own cross, to bear the cross. Now, in English today, we don't hear this quite as often, But it's a known phrase where we might hear somebody say, well, that's the cross that I have to bear, or it's my cross to bear. But usually when we use that phrase in this day and age, it's a reference to an arthritic knee or something along those lines. And that's not what the text is about. The text is about what it means to pay a price to be a follower of Jesus Christ. What are the difficulties that we face? The ways in which we stand against this world? Perhaps it's when we're in a group of people online or in person where we say, what you're saying about these people is untrue and unkind. Stop it. There is a price sometimes to be paid for being a follower of Christ. Now, in church tradition, Peter himself would end up on a cross. And so we think of these images as not so much these things that we might wear around our neck to various events, but rather something that was brutal, something that was hard. I think perhaps maybe when we walk away from these texts this morning, we might think, does following Christ feel simple and easy in my life? And if it does, am I doing it right? Should I be reflecting on what Christ has called me to be about in this life? Should I be digging deeper in what it means to follow Christ in this place, in this time, in my situation? Amen.